we then check what is the meaning of a disease. A disease is a perturbed state of physiology or psychology, and there are some factors that affect health. They could be grouped into main three factors: infections, environmental or abiotic factors, and genetic disorders. So the infections are due to pathogens, environmental or abiotic factors are due to factors that affect the food, water, lifestyle. Lifestyle as in the rest, exercise, sleep, and nutrition of the organism. And genetic disorders include defects which are inherited from parents and caused due to mutations and genetic defects.
Yes.
These factors can put a human into a diseased state, and these diseases can be classified into two: infectious and non-infectious. Non-infectious diseases cannot be spread from one person to another through exchange of body fluids or exchange of food, water, and air. On the other hand, the infectious agents or infectious diseases are capable of spreading from one person to another through food, water, air, contamination, or through exchange of body fluids. When infectious diseases are normally caused by infectious agents, then these infectious agents are called as pathogens. These pathogens are disease-causing microorganisms that replicates in or on an organism and causes harm to it. Pathogens enter a human body through various means. They multiply and increase in number. They produce toxins which interfere with normal physiological activities, and this in turn results in morphological or physiological and functional damages. A pathogen that enters the stomach should know a way to survive any acids or enzymes. Then, then we looked at one such diseases caused by a pathogen called Salmonella typhi. It is a pathogenic bacterium. It causes typhoid fever in humans. It enters the small intestine through contaminated food and water. It migrates to the other organs through the blood. And we looked at some of the common symptoms of this disease, including sustained high fever, about 39 to 40 degrees Celsius, weakness, stomach ache, constipation, loss of appetite, and in severe cases might even lead to intestinal perforation, and that is the breaking of the intestines. And then we also looked at a Manto test. It is a skin test for checking tuberculosis infections, and the confirmatory test for the typhoid is the Vidal test.
It's called Vidal test.
Vidal test. Vidal
Yeah,
test.
Montauk's test I just explained you because I think someone asked about this. So it's a skin test for TB, right? It has nothing to do with Salmonella typhimurium.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Continue.
When we look at the Vidal test, it is an agglutination test which detects the presence of specific typhoid markers. Then it is a reliable diagnostic test for typhoid, which does not include culturing the pathogen. And the method is that we take the patient's blood or serum and test it for antibodies against the typhoid agents.
Right, perfect. Then we were to start with Streptococcus pneumonia today, right? And Haemophilus influenza, which causes pneumonia, right? In humans. Correct. So I'll take from here. Good evening, Abia. We just joined in before Nabil was explaining. Yes. Okay. So let's start with any doubts, Abia? Anything you want to ask before we begin?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So these two bacteria, Streptococcus pneumonia and Haemophilus influenzae, are responsible for, okay, we have Mamuna joining in, so it's responsible for causing pneumonia. Now, what do you know about pneumonia already? In humans, what happens in pneumonia?
Sir, it is a fluid buildup in the lungs.
Yes, so yes, that's the most important thing, that lungs get infected, okay, and it infects, these two bacteria infects the structure called alveoli. You know what is alveoli in the lungs?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
yeah, what is an alveoli?
Air-filled sacs in lungs.
Yes, they are the small grape-like structures which are hollow from inside in the lungs. I think you have studied about this in class 11th, right? In respiration chapter, where you studied the structure of lungs. Yes, remember?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So alveoli gets infected, and as a result of the infection, the alveoli gets filled with fluid, which is so whenever there is infection anywhere in the body, you will see that there is fluid swelling happens and fluid deposition begins, right? So that leads to problems because these if in the alveoli you have fluid deposition, then the primary job of the alveoli, which is the efficient, effective exchange of gases, respiratory gases, which is CO2 and oxygen, that will not happen because now it is not air filled cavity, it is a fluid filled cavity. So if the exchange of gases will decrease, then what will happen as a result? The same thing that used to happen in COVID. In COVID also, one of the symptom was that lungs, because COVID also attacks the lung, just like streptococcus pneumonia and Haemophilus influenzae. So the COVID virus, when it attacks the lung, it causes similar kind of symptoms where the fluid get filled in these air cavities. So what used to happen?
Breathing difficult.
Difficulty in breathing is first thing. And why difficulty in breathing? Nothing happens to your nose, right? Your nose is intact, open. You can breathe in air, but why you can't breathe in?
The alveoli are damaged.
So what's happening now? The exchange, you are breathing enough air inside your lungs, but it's not getting exchanged between the blood and the lungs. CO2 from the blood is not getting into the lungs, and O2 from the lungs is not going effectively into the blood because it's fluid filled. The cavities are fluid filled now. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
As a result, you must have heard of this term a lot in last 2 years. The SpO2 level goes down. Right?
Yes, sir.
SpO2. What is SpO2?
Partial pressure of oxygen in the lungs.
Yes. Partial pressure of oxygen in the lungs. But what does the word S means here in SpO2? There is a S also, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is S? No one figured out. It is the, so we don't just only measure the pressure. It is the saturation pressure. Okay. So pressure at which saturation, like more than that, oxygen is not present now. Is not you are not able to get that oxygen pressure beyond this. So in a healthy person's body, very healthy, like a person who has no problem at all, the saturation will happen at the maximum possible limit, which is 100%. So the blood have always, because if we talk about partial pressure, it can never be 100%. No, have you thought about it, Nabil? In the blood, the partial pressure of oxygen cannot be 100%. Can it be?
No, sir.
It can also not be 96%. Can it be? But the saturation percent means at what amount of oxygen does the blood get saturated for oxygen? That we check. Okay. So in a healthy person, it has to be 99 or 100%. SpO2 has to be 99 to 100. You are always saturated with oxygen in your blood. The amount that you can carry, all of that is present. In an infected person's lungs, you will see that it drops to 80, 70, 60. And that's problematic because now you are not getting enough oxygen for the lungs and also for your brain and also for other parts of the body. Yes or no? That's where you feel like breathlessness because you feel like you're not breathing at all. The oxygen is not going into the body at all. So SpO2 is oxygen saturation. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it is the percentage of the maximum blood oxygen that your blood can carry instead of just the partial pressure of oxygen in the blood. Very well. So write down pneumonia in humans, first point. Pneumonia in human is caused by the infection of alveoli of lungs. And alveoli are air-filled cavities, air-filled lung structures or sacs. Okay. Now you can write down due to the infection the alveoli gets filled with fluid. Which causes severe problems in respiration. Okay. So what happens in pneumonia? Any idea what happens? What are the symptoms of pneumonia?
So difficulty in breathing, breathlessness.
Symptoms. Yes, first symptom will be, because it's an infection. So whenever there's an infection, always follow this rule or this route. Okay, you will remember. So some symptoms are general, some are specific for that disease. So if there is an infection in the lungs, first infection anywhere will cause fever, right? And this fever is with chills. You know what are chills? Sudden outburst of feeling very cold and numb is chills. Feel like shivering, then you need a blanket. Then the next moment you will not feel that cold. So fever, chill, and cough, because it's lungs that are infected, so it will cough a lot. Respiratory tract is infected. Coughing is actually a mechanism by which we can clean the respiratory tract. But when this infection happens, it becomes a symptom, because we are constantly, continuously, our respiratory tract is irritated and we keep coughing. And headache, of course. Headache is not that common, but headache, of course, it will be there. And as you said that there is issues with breathing, correct? Next is difficulty in breathing, and as a result in respiration. You know the difference between the two, I hope, right? From class 11th, breathing and respiration. Yes, no? Sorry, come again.
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. Now write down, these were the common symptoms. Now specific, severe symptoms, write down. In severe symptoms, which I'll write with the red in every case, severe symptoms are because the oxygen becomes so low in the body that our lips and the finger turn bluish in color. So this is where we know that pneumonia is very severe and the person may not survive now. So turning blue of lips and finger. Okay. Basically fingernail regions, because these are at the extremes, and these extremities, even the ear, the toenails, they stop getting oxygen at all. Okay. And because it's an infection, do you think it can spread? Can it spread?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what is the mode of spread?
Spread through air.
Through?
Air.
Yes, right. First is it can spread through air droplets. Air droplets coming from the respiratory tract, or air droplets exhaled by the infected person. Air droplets because these droplets would carry these bacteria. Air droplets exhaled from infected person. Now this you can prevent, right? How?
By wearing mask.
Yes, that is one good idea. Isolation of the patient, or by wearing mask in the vicinity, a mask that can provide you sufficient protection. Second thing, write down, it can also be transmitted through contaminated objects. Through contaminated objects. Makes sense, right? It's simple. It can be anything like a pen, paper, book, utensil, anything that the person comes in contact with and might have these bacteria. So you come in contact, your hands get this bacteria, then you touch your nose and eyes and mouth with that hand and you get the infection. This can also be prevented by doing what?
Isolation.
Sorry? Yeah, isolation, but for the person. By cleaning your hands more often, using hand sanitizers, and not touching your face, nose, or eyes without washing the hands. Okay. Because if the bacteria or if a virus is present on the skin surface, it's not a problem to you. It's okay. But if it enters your system, then it's a problem. Make sense? Similarly, there are many other bacterial diseases like, can you give some example of other bacterial diseases? This you have to figure out. I'm giving you as a homework, write down. Find 5 more bacterial diseases and their causative agents. And also symptoms. So you'll do the same thing, generalized and specific severe symptom for that disease. Okay. So this is your first take home assignment for today. Written? Everyone? Hello, Madhya, how are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Good. So did you noted the homework?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these were some important diseases caused by bacteria,
Yes,
salmonella.
sir. I was there. I was listening.
Okay, very good. Now let's come to some viral diseases. Okay. So viral infections, viral diseases. Most common that we are suffering from now, from last more than 2 years, is COVID. So let's quickly talk about COVID. What happens in COVID? What is COVID? This might come because it's a very new thing. So the world is, all exams are asking questions on COVID. Since you are studying diseases, you should know about this. So what happens in COVID-19 disease? This is not in your NCERT because, of course, for obvious reasons. But now tell me, what causes COVID? Do you know the name of the virus? Anyone?
So SARS-CoV-2.
Yes. So we call it SARS-CoV-2. What is the SARS and CoV means in here? SARS,
Severe acute respiratory syndrome.
yes, severe acute respiratory syndrome, and as the name suggests, you can see that it is severe. Acute means it is very rapid. It causes effect or shows effects in very small time frame. It's the other type of disease or infections are chronic. So chronic are very slow and they can go until a very long time. Like people can suffer from chronic diseases. Like diabetes is a chronic disease. You can suffer for your whole life with that. SARS-CoV either gets treated or kills the person. So severe acute respiratory syndrome, it attacks the respiratory system. So that's where it comes from. And SARS-CoV is not the only virus that has infected us. Hello, Minashi, how are you? Yes, you joined a little late, not little, lot late. Why? Are you fine? Are you well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very well. So we just started with viral infections. We have done bacterial infections. So please go through that. Okay, on your own, and let me know if you have any doubt. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are discussing viral infections, and I'm discussing the first thing, which which is a very general and current topic, which is COVID-19. It's a viral infection. So we are discussing what is the name of the virus, which is SARS-CoV-2, and it is SARS stands for severe acute respiratory syndrome. And what does the CoV stands for? CoV stands for coronavirus. You know what is a coronavirus? So these viruses are named or classified on the basis of their overall structure or how they look, basically their shapes. There are various different kinds of viruses with shapes. Now coronaviruses look something like, so there is a virus and you see it has lots and lots of spike proteins. Okay, so the appearance is like this. Can you tell me what it resembles to, like as a structure? We used to draw something as kids. Yes. What does it?
A sun.
Yes, surface of the sun, right? So the surface of the sun has a name. You know what is the scientific name for the surface of the sun? Corona. The word corona is used for the sun surface. So diagrammatically, this virus looks like the sun surface with lots and lots of spike protein on its shape, on its circular spherical shape. So that's why the name coronavirus. Coronavirus is a family. It has many viruses which we know about, which we study, and some of them are pathogenic to human, like the first SARS-CoV-1 that caused the SARS infection, severe acute respiratory syndrome, that happened, I think, I don't know, 2002-3 happened, somewhere around that. And there was also a cousin called MERS, Middle East respiratory syndrome, that happened in the Middle East region, and it's known as MERS. MERS was also a kind of similar virus. And then SARS-CoV-2 is a unique virus, different virus that infects human. So what are the symptoms in this case? You should know the name, you should know something about it for sure. It may or may not be asked, but because it's a current topic, you should be prepared. It can come. What are the symptoms? You all know. Fever, it's very common. Okay. Chills are not there in COVID.
Loss
Instead,
of taste and smell.
yes, loss of smell and taste is it's reported in many. Headache is there, right? Severe headache happens. And also lose motions, but that's more of like a side effect to the medication, but it happens. Anything else?
Sir, how is there loss of smell and taste, sir?
So these virus, it's seen that they also affect the olfactory epithelium in our nose, okay, and the respiratory tract. They also affect the lining of the gut, sorry, of the throat. So that way you do not get a taste and a smell. Taste is very closely related to smell. If you cannot smell something, you often do not taste it properly. You cannot distinguish. Yes. Okay. We do not know. Like I do not know. I have not read in detail what causes the loss, but as far as I know, it damages the olfactory epithelium. That's known. Okay. The viral infection. Does that answer your question, Nabil?
Yes, sir.
We can both look up into this in detail, okay, and discuss in the next class. Probably you can tell me. Okay, so will you tell me in the next class how it happens, if you can understand it, just because if you're interested.
Yes, sir.
Now, for some severe symptoms, what happens is severe respiratory issues, right? This might occur. The person finds it very difficult to breathe. There is fluid filled in the lungs. So lungs get fluid filled. And what else? Mostly these happens, right? And it is infectious, so it can spread through
And
air, through the droplets that can be sneezed out or exhaled out. Right down. It can spread through tiny air droplets exhaled from the infected person. It can also spread through contaminated objects or the contaminated surfaces that you come in contact. Okay.
Sir, can you say again what are the mode of transmissions?
Sorry, come again.
Sir, can you repeat it again?
Yes, can. So which part do you want me to repeat?
The mode of transmission.
Okay, the mode of transmission is through air droplets. Okay, so the droplets which are exhaled by infected person. And through contaminated surfaces, coming in contact with the contaminated surfaces. Milder kind of a disease that also happens through a virus is known as common cold. Do you know about common cold? It is very common. That's why it's called common cold. It happens to all of us multiple times in one season and multiple times during our lifetimes. We are never immune to it. Okay. So this is not caused by coronaviruses. This is called by a group of viruses called rhinoviruses. Okay. Rhinoviruses. So this is the group which causes the most viral infections. So this group, write down, causes the most viral infections. In human. Rhinoviruses, okay? And also if common cold is the most common viral infection. Is it clear, everyone? Now tell me, we also sometimes know it as the flu, viral flu. We got viral flu, viral fever. You know that? You must have heard of this.
Yes, sir.
You have a fever and a running nose, then you go to doctor, and what does the doctor tell you?
Take paracetamol.
Take paracetamol, don't worry, drink lots of fluid and water. It will on its own go in how many days?
3 to 5 days.
Yes, 3 to 7 days basically. For some it's 5, for some it's 3. Like in odd days, like within a week it goes. Your body recovers from it within a week. It does not causes long lasting effects, or it's not very acute or severe like COVID, but it's very common. So every season we have it, and you know the symptoms also. It has nasal congestion, the nose blocks, discharge. Nasal discharge means there's lots and lots of running nose, sore throat, cough, headache, fatigue. You feel fatigued all the time. That's all. So take rest, drink water, take paracetamol and these medicines, and you recover in 3 to 7 days on your own. The body heals with the help of medicines. And they can also be spread through sneeze. So that's where, or infected, or through a contaminated object. So you will often see a trend. If one person gets a viral fever in the home, then in a series, everyone at least gets a fever to some or the other extent. Yes? Have you seen this happening? The same was for COVID as well. It's not always necessarily true. Sometimes you just do not get enough viral load to be positive for that disorder, and you can still not get symptom. So COVID can also be asymptomatic. You know about that? So you are COVID positive, but you're not showing symptoms. So there is virus in your body, but the viral load does not go beyond a threshold so that it can cause visible effects on your system. You will have slight fever and nothing more.
So asymptomatic cases won't result in death, right? So
Yes, they won't. Okay. So death is basically when some symptom becomes very severe. And in case of COVID, the only symptom that can become so severe is your either the fever goes beyond our control, or the lungs become non-functional because of fluid, lots of fluid filled in them. Is it clear, everyone?
yes, sir.
Madiha, Mamuna, and Minashi?
Yes.
Okay. So you will write the symptoms for common cold on your own, and how it spread, how common cold can spread, and the causative agent is rhinoviruses. Okay, so most of the viruses, the viral infections spread mostly through these things if they are affecting the respiratory system. Okay. Some other common things are, another viral disease is dengue. You know what causes dengue? We call it dengue.
Mosquito,
Sorry.
the mosquito bites.
No, but what is the causative agent? Mosquito does not cause dengue. Mosquito acts as a vector for the causative agent. So mosquitoes just are postman.
Virus.
Yes, dengue is a viral disease. Yes, we call it dengue. It's dengue basically, the right pronunciation. So dengue is caused by virus. That virus can reside without affecting into the salivary glands of the mosquito Aedes. So when the Aedes mosquito stings us to suck the blood, first it releases some saliva. You know why it releases some saliva through its sting before sucking the blood? It has a biological concept behind it. What is the property of blood when it comes out of the veins?
To
Have you
clot
seen?
it.
Coagulate.
Sorry?
To
Come again?
coagulate.
It coagulates, it clots. Very good, perfect. So if a mosquito is just biting and sucking our blood, that blood might just get coagulated or clotted in its own proboscis, in the mosquito's proboscis. And that is a problem for the mosquito. So first, it secretes some saliva in that local region, which contains some anticoagulatory proteins, which does not allow the blood to clot, anti-clotting factors. Okay. So these factors, even when they are sucking the blood, they prevent it from clotting in the mosquito's body. But when they are sending some saliva out, these pathogens, dengue virus, they also reside in the salivary glands of the mosquito. They never affect the mosquito, does not cause anything to the mosquito. Because if they cause anything to the mosquito and the mosquito dies, they will never be transferred to humans. Humans are the host they are looking for. Okay. So they come to our system, and then what happens? Which virus causes dengue? Just write down. Any idea? Which is the virus that causes dengue? It's called flavivirus. Okay, I'm writing it here. So just know it because it's very common. Dengue is caused by flavivirus family. Okay. And if you want to know the name of the virus, sometimes it's called yellow fever virus. Yellow fever virus. Okay. And sometimes also known as West Nile. Not wrong. West Nile is also dengue virus. It's named with respect to the presence where it is found, west of the Nile. Where is Nile River?
Egypt.
Yes. So west of Nile is the Africa. Yes. You understand, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And write down, Aedes mosquito is not the causative agent. So flavivirus is the causative agent, just like rhinoviruses are the causative. These are the organisms responsible to cause this disease. But Aedes mosquito, and specifically the females, not the males, are vectors that carry the virus to the human system, or that transports the virus to the human system. Okay. And what happens in dengue? What are the symptoms? What are the symptoms of dengue?
So fever.
Yes, fever is always there. Okay, so one is fever. High fever happens. The body aches, so bones and joints and muscles, they pain. So body pain is very characteristic feature of it, of the dengue. So you can write in symptoms as high fever, body pain, especially joints ache, and
Itchy skin is also.
sorry,
Itchy skin or like a skin rash.
yes, so skin rashes due to this infection, skin rashes and itching skin, you're saying, right? Itching that
Yes,
happens. So you are always fatigued, you get chills. So this fever and the body pain comes with chills, and you are fatigued and you do not want to eat anything. Loss of appetite. Dengue can become severe if this fever, high fever, reaches the brain. Okay. and it starts affecting the brain, then it becomes very, very severe and people might also die. Okay. Basically what happens is if it reaches the brain, the temperature of the brain tissues and the blood increases, and whenever blood becomes hot, it runs faster and there are chances of hemorrhage happening from very, very fine capillaries in the brain. So blood can start leaking and clot. The moment it comes out of the vessels, they clot. So brain hemorrhage can happen, internal bleeding can happen under very high fevers that reaches the brain. Okay, everyone? So these were some diseases happening through viruses. Any doubt, people?
No, sir.
Okay, so again, I'm giving you this homework. So write down, this is your homework 2. You have to find along the same lines 3 more viral infections which are common. Okay, don't find the rare ones, find the common ones and their causative agent, and if they have a vector, then also the vector, causative agent, vector, and symptoms. Okay. Noted, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Very well. So let's move forward towards some more organisms. Let's say, what other organisms causes disease? Yes, protozoa. So let's come to protozoa. So what is a protozoa or protozoans?
So
Class
like
11th,
amoeba,
chapter 2.
paramecia.
Yeah, but what are they? To which kingdom do they belong?
So animal kingdom.
No, protozoa belongs to the animal kingdom. Protozoa has its own kingdom. Have you studied kingdom Protista? Protista.
Yes, sir.
What are the 5 kingdoms? Name it quickly, Abia. In the 5 kingdom classification in class 11th, chapter 2, what are the 5 kingdoms that you have studied in biology?
Sir, Protista, fungi, animalia, plantae.
Monera.
Monera, right?
Yes, sir.
So protozoans, the disease that kind of they caused, yes, right, Minashi. So one disease causing protozoa is, you must have heard of it a lot. It's called Plasmodium. Have you heard of Plasmodium?
Yes, sir.
So this Plasmodium has 4 different species. Plasmodium vivax or vivax, Plasmodium malaria. All causes malaria like symptoms, but there is a specific Plasmodium malaria. Plasmodium falciparum, which is very common in India and causes most of the malaria. And 4th is Plasmodium ovale, which is not that common in Indian subcontinent. Vivax causes the most severe kind of malaria, and it's also very, very prominent in Africa, along with ovale and malaria, and falciparum is very common in India. So these 4 Plasmodium species are there which causes malaria. So write down the disease that they cause. It's called malaria disease. Can you tell me what happens in this disease?
The infected mosquito bites a healthy individual. It it spread the plasmodium virus through this bite, and this will go into the liver, affect the liver cells, and lead to rupture of the red blood cells, releasing substances called hemozymes, and which causes characteristic cold for about 3 to 4 days. And as a result of this, a person feels fever and chills. And when this infected person is bit by another Anopheles mosquito, it
Yeah.
spreads through the bite of that particular mosquito.
Yeah. So, but what's happening in the body? Did you talk about did you know about where do they first go? So let's
Yes,
say
sir.
a bacteria, sorry, a mosquito is, which mosquito is a vector? Here the mosquito is again a vector.
Anopheles.
Anopheles, okay? Write down. The Anopheles female is the vector. So this plasmodium has to reach human blood. And then where does it go first? It goes, let me, do you all have NCRT? Can someone tell me the page number of NCRT? There is a good diagram in NCRT which explains the life cycle. Put that diagram. Can anyone tell me which page number it is? 148. Thank you, Minashi. 148. See. Okay. Yes. Got it. Okay, very well. Got it. Minashi. Let me insert the image. Can you all see the image?
Yes, sir.
This is the image. Please, you can also open it in your respective books and explain this image. Okay, very well. So pay attention. So first, let me give you 2-3 minutes to go through this image. It's on the screen also in your NCRT, and then I'll ask someone apart from Nabil, because Nabil has been giving enough answers for today. Sorry, Nabil, but anyone else will explain this to me. It's very self-explanatory, but you have to explain 2-3 things. First, where does it enters into a human body? What is the first organ it infects, and in which organ it multiplies, and what part of its life cycle, of the plasmodium's life cycle, takes place in human, and what part takes place in mosquito. Okay, so you have 3 minutes, everyone, and I can randomly ask anyone to explain this. So please go through this. Are you all, am I audible to all of you? Then we'll
Yes, sir.
discuss the details. Okay,
Yes,
go
sir.
through it. Yes, the time starts now.
Sir, the site through which it enters the body and the target organ is different things, sir.
Sorry, come again. Just repeat your
Site
question.
through which, so the site through which the pathogen enters the body and
Yeah.
the target or the first target organ, they're different, right, sir?
Yes, they may be same in some infections, but in case of Plasmodium, it's different. Okay. So it enters, of course, the only point
Yes,
it can
sir.
enter through is blood, right? So the first organ or the tissue you can say is blood. So blood is the first tissue that gets, that's the entry point. Then it goes in a dormant state in another organ, then comes back to blood to complete the life cycle. So I think it's clear, right? You're reading along the lines. Just a couple of more minutes, then I'll ask someone. Is it done, Nabil? Do you understand, Nabil? Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Couple of more minutes, people. Okay, so done, everyone? Enough time to understand. Now, whatever you will not understand, I'll explain, but I think it's very self-explanatory. So after all this learning, you should be able to do it. So let's go to, let me go to Mamuna. Mamuna, are you there? Am I audible to you, Mamuna? Would you like to explain this? No. Okay, Mamuna is not keeping well. Her throat is bad. Okay, fine. So get well soon, Mamuna. Let's go to Minashi. Minashi, can you speak?
Yes, sir.
I think yes. Okay, very well. So would you like to give a explain this, the life cycle, what you understood? So tell me where would you like to start, and I'll put 1 in front of that. So let's do it together. Where would you like to start?
When the mosquito bites another human.
This one, where my
Yeah.
cursor is. This one.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me what happens when it bites.
It bites and then the infection gets inside the blood.
And the infection gets, because it's a cycle, so wherever you start, you have to come there only. So you are saying at this point it bites another human, and there is something that enters. The parasite enters. But do you, yeah, in what form? Do you see this form here written as sporozoites?
Yeah.
Yeah, what does this means? Sporozoites. Any idea? So write down sporozoites is the infectious form of the pathogen of Plasmodium. Sporozoite is the infectious form. Okay, so this is the form that infects. And I told you about 4 types of Plasmodium: Vivax, malaria, falciparum, and ovale. Out of these, there is this falciparum, this one. This causes a malaria which is known as malignant malaria. You know what is malignancy? You must have heard this term in terms of cancer, malignant tumors.
It spreads from one part to another.
Yes, so malignant malaria is that it's very difficult. It's very, if it spreads, falciparum is very common. And if it spreads, it can be very serious. And it's the most serious, and it can even be fatal. Causes most number of deaths by malaria is caused by falciparum. So can I down it causes?
It means it spreads from one body part to another, or from one individual to another, sir.
Sorry, come again. Your voice was
Sir,
muffling.
Sir,
Nabil.
malignant means it spreads from one body part to another, as in cancer, or does it spread from one individual to another, sir?
It spreads from. Sorry, I could not still
So
get
like
you.
malignant in cancer, it means it spreads from one body part to another, right, sir? So in terms of this,
Okay, I understood. So you're saying that why it's called malignant, right?
sir.
Okay. So basically, it means that it's the malignancy part here is more than spread. It is for the severity. Okay, so malignant malaria is very severe form of malaria. So first, it's systemic in the same body. Malaria can only spread. It cannot spread just by like breathing or let's say sweat or contaminate or touch, etc. You understand? Because the plasmodium has to reach the other person. So it can spread through mosquito only. And you can understand that mosquito is very important for this. So it cannot just spread from person to person. Is that concept clear to you, Nabil?
Yes, sir.
Because it also relies, the plasmodium also relies on mosquito for some things. So if you remove mosquitoes from this whole equation, the spread of malaria can be controlled completely. No mosquitoes, no malaria, because some part of its life cycle is dependent on mosquito. So even if it goes directly from a human to another human, it has to go in sporozoite form, and as a sporozoite form, it can cause malaria. But again, to continue growing, it has to again go back to a mosquito host. So there are 2 hosts, human and mosquito. So it's not causing a lot of damage in mosquito, it's causing a lot of damage in humans. You understand?
Sir, but it doesn't affect the mosquito, right, sir?
Yes, it does not affect the mosquito. It does not kill the mosquito. That doesn't make sense, right? If it kills the mosquito. But by malignant forms, it means that those cases of malaria which are very fatal, if you do not give treatment, so they will be so severely that they will kill the patient. That's where the malignancy part comes. And of course, it spreads. It's systemic. It's throughout. It spreads it stays in the blood, right? So it affects the liver, the blood, and spreads throughout the body. The load of the plasmodium is very much in the body. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Cool. Yes, Minashi, continue.
Yes,
So,
sir. From blood, the parasite enters the liver.
yes, in the form
And
of a sporozoites, which is the infectious form. So it first reaches the liver. Keep noting whatever Minashi and I are dictating. Yes, then what happens? What do you think happens?
From liver cells, the parasites reproduce asexually, and the liver cells burst, and it again enters the blood.
Yes. So do you understand that to reproduce, which means to make its number, to make its more copies, this parasite it enters through blood, but it first reaches the liver. So write down the first organ where it replicates and increases its number is liver. So it is raising an army there, because how many plasmodium do you think a small tiny mosquito with its bite can transfer into a human? Not many, right? Not enough to take over our system. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So clearly it has to replicate, these are just 5 or let's say 10, 20, 30 plasmodiums that entered in one bite, let's say. Then they have to raise an army to cause a system level attack on our body. So they go to liver, they hide there, infect the liver cells and grow, reproduce. But now here what they want is to reproduce fast and multiply as fast and as much as they can. So that's why their reproduction in human is asexual. You understood, everyone, the concept, the logic?
Yes, sir.
So right, you can write down the parasite reproduces asexually in the liver cells. So it is a rapid multiplication. Okay. A rapid multiplication. Basically, they are raising an army in liver. So liver becomes very important. It is the first site of an attack. Then when the army is raised enough, then what happens? Yes, Meenakshi, continue.
Then the liver burst.
Okay.
The
The liver does
cells
not burst.
Yeah, the liver
Yes,
cells burst.
don't burst the liver, okay? Yeah, the liver cell bursts, and basically
Then
burst
again,
means they do not burst on their own. The virus makes the kills. The virus lyses the cell, so the cell opens. That's called bursting. Cell dies. And then what happens?
and again the parasites enters the blood.
Yes, it enters the blood. And then?
And then again it produces sexually.
Yes, again, so this is the first wave of infection. So you can write down liver is the first. This is a neat question. You can also make a star here. What is the first site of infection of Plasmodium falciparum in a human body? Blood, liver, and 2 other options will be there. Salivary gland or something else. So you will see it's blood, but it's wrong answer. So first site of infection is, what it is, Meenakshi?
Liver.
Liver. Then this here is the second site. Tell me, complete, Meenakshi, what happens?
In front blood, it again reproduces asexually.
Yes.
And it causes fever and all.
So why do you think is so in malaria one of the symptoms is a cyclic, a periodic chill. You can actually time it, you know. So in some patients it differ patient to patient, but mostly like it does not differ very much. So there'll be one wave where you will feel chills for some time. Let's say 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you are feeling chills and very cold. Then you start feeling okay, your body homeostazes. And after next few hours, you again feel a chill. So there are cycles of fever and other symptoms. Why do you think there is a cycle, Meenakshi? And others keep noting this. Yes, Meenakshi. Why do you think there is a cycle?
Need to make enough copies.
Yes, you're on the right line, but would you like to elaborate, please?
No. I don't know.
Anyone else would like to try? Nabil, Madiha?
Because it undergoes this process repeatedly. Like one time it attacks a group of cells.
Yeah.
We feel fever and chills. Then once those progeny.
Why are we
develop,
having these fevers? First of all, why are we having this fever? Because
rupture of blood cells leads to releasing of hemozoin, which causes the fever and chills. And once these progeny they develop enough to attack the other cells, then the next wave causes more fever, another cycle of fever and chills.
yes, so hemozoin is a toxic substance. Okay, so you're right. So write down the parasites.
Sir,
First,
this hemozoin is from the blood cells or it is from the plasmodium, sir?
Sorry, the hemozoin, your voice is muffled. Hemozoin is from?
It is from the blood cells or is it from the plasmodium, sir? Like, does it release hemozoin to destroy the blood cells, or is it released by the blood cells on?
Yeah, no. So hemozoin is basically, I understood your question. So hemozoin is when any blood feeding parasite. So plasmodium is one of the parasites that damages the blood cells, right? There are many other parasites that feed on blood. For example, leech, other parasites, ectoparasites that actually feed on blood. So any organism that feed on blood has to digest the blood, right?
Yes, sir.
So basically it's a pigment. Okay, so it is produced by plasmodium. In this case, plasmodium has these, remember in amoeba there were some vacuoles, food vacuole, contractile vacuole, etc., etc. So in the food vacuole they digest their food, right? Similarly, there is in plasmodium there is something called digestive vacuole in which they produce hemozoin. So basically when you catalyze hemoglobin, hemoglobin is a red colored pigment, and hemoglobin is present on the surface of RBC in the blood. Am I making sense? This is some deep thing, but just because to answer Nabil's question, you are understanding, everyone? Any blood eating or blood feeding parasite has to digest the blood. To digest the blood, it has to break down the proteins, and one of the protein is hemoglobin. So when you digest hemoglobin, and as a product in your digestive vacuoles, you form hemozoin. Now hemozoin is formed from the digestion of the blood, and it's a brown pigment. Instead of red, it is brown, and it is a toxic thing. Okay, so it is toxic, and when these toxins come into the blood, into the body, then the body gets an alarm of infection, and happens your fever to get rid of it, and the chills associated with it. Okay, so write down. Initially, the parasite plasmodium multiplies in the liver cells, and then attacks the RBCs. And then attacks the RBCs. They rupture the RBCs. And release hemozoin, which is a toxic substance, a toxin basically, in the blood. And this attack, this release of hemozoin and this attack on RBC happens in a cycle every 48 to 72 hours. It can vary a little, but mostly it's 2 to 3 days. So every 48 to 72 hours in the patients. Do you understand, everyone? Making sense? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So every 48 to 72, or some cases can be 80 hours or 90 hours. So this hemozoin increases in the blood because a new set of, so there'll be 100, let's say, let's start with 100 plasmodium. They will go into 100 RBCs. Each one will become 100. Then every 72 hours, they will burst all those 100 cells, release in large number, produce hemozoin, and then infect more cells. Then they will take another 72 hours to multiply there, then again burst the other RBCs, come out, produce hemozoin. So this is a cycle. You understand, everyone? That's why after every such interval, there is a series of fever, high fever, and chills in the patient. It is just telling us about the replication cycle and the production of hemozoin toxin by the pathogen in the body. Okay. And these sporozoites, which are the infectious forms, are present in the salivary glands. So they are present in the salivary glands of mosquito, of Anopheles. Okay. Make sense? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Minashi, continue quickly.
Yes, sir. Then the parasites infect new blood cells and
Mhm,
they again reproduce sexually.
mhm. No,
Then the
not again. No, they
uh,
reproduce sexually. Now from these continuous cycles, two type of gametocytes. These are until they were sporozoites. Now they are gametozoites or gametocytes. So they produce a male and a female kind of a plasmodium. So okay, in the RBC, so there is male and female produced, and then these are present in the RBC. They don't burst now the RBC. So some of them burst the RBC. Some stays in RBC as sexual stages, male and female. Okay, they have not sexually reproduced yet inside the human host. They just stay in the RBC. Now a mosquito has to bite again. Okay, and this time the mosquito has to bite who? Not a normal person, but
Infected person.
yes. So here in the first stage, then this is the second, then the third, then the fourth. Here at the fifth stage, the sexual stages are developed. Now they are present in the blood of an infected person. So this mosquito has to bite an infected person now. Do you understand, everyone?
Yes, sir.
And when it will bite and suck the blood, these gametocytes will enter the salivary gland of the female mosquito. And inside the salivary gland, there will be fertilization and sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction happens in mosquito and asexual happens in human. Is it clear?
human.
Because in mosquito, it has lots of time. It does not worry. It can take all its sweet time, reproduce sexually, do fertilization, etc., etc., because it's not affecting the mosquito. In human, all it wants is to just take over the system, hijack the system. So just reproduce asexually. So it has both the modes. So fertilization takes place in the salivary glands, where after the fertilization, again, mature infective stages, which are called sporozoites, are formed in the salivary gland. Then again, this is stage 7. Then again at stage 8, that mosquito has to bite another healthy person, right? A normal person. Do you understand? And the cycle continues. Does everyone understand this? Say yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Everyone, is the cycle clear to you? So to
Yes, sir.
complete its cycle, mosquito, the anopheles has to depend both on mosquito and human. Sorry, the plasmodium has to depend both on anopheles and human. In anopheles, it's the sexual reproduction part. In humans, it's the asexual or the infective part carried out by sporozoites. And but you understand, whatever is entering human, what is entering human? Sporozoites. But where are sporozoites formed? This was a neat question. Sporozoites enter the healthy person to create the disease. But where is it formed? Inside the mosquito.
Lungs.
Yes, exactly. And gametocytes enter the mosquito salivary gland to do sexual reproduction, but where it is formed? In the human RBC. Do you understand? So the sexual stages, gametocytes develop in the RBCs. So they develop in the human and enter the mosquito to do sexual reproduction. Then sporozoites are developed in the mosquito but enter the human to cause infection. Is it clear? That's why it's called, this kind of evolution is known as the bihost, dihost. Like two hosts are important to complete the life cycle. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay. In the next class, I will start with something like it is called amoebiasis. It's caused by ant amoeba, a big amoeba, ant amoeba histolytica. Now that is completely different. There, it just needs one host, and that host is human. No second host is required, unlike plasmodium. Is it clear? So I give you a homework. Go and read about amoebic dysentery. Write down. Your homework is to study about amoeba causing infection. The infection is caused by ant amoeba histolytica. That's why it's called amoebiasis. So read about amoebiasis a bit. There, the amoeba has to enter the human, and it does not require a vector. It can even enter through polluted or contaminated water, and it just need one host, which is human. So it completes its complete cycle in a human, unlike Plasmodium. Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Any doubts?
Sir,
Yeah.
one question, sir.
Yes.
Since the aim of the parasite is to reside inside the host, it should remain undetected by the host as long as possible. So
That's the ideal. Yes, that's the ideal parasite how should behave. Yes.
therefore, the most ideal behavior of parasite should be that it should not harm the host. But
Yes.
no parasite does this. Why?
Yes, because it's not like no parasite does this. There are many parasites that do this, and we never know about them because the parasites that do this, we never study them. You understand? There's one common logic. If there's a parasite inside you right now, it's multiplying, but it's not killing yourself, just multiplying and being there. You have no problem with that, right? Do you have any problem with that, Nabil? Because you don't know. No symptom, no illness. You are normal. Parasite is normal. You are eating, anyways, you are eating enough food. So parasite is taking a little bit of it as an energy. Do you have any problem with that?
Not necessarily. Sir.
Sorry, yes or no?
No, sir.
No. So you will not study that, right? So there are some cases like that, but mostly we notice and we start studying when there is a symptom, when there's a disease, when there's a problem. So no one would like to spend all their money in studying something which has no consequence on human, right? People do that also. It's not like people don't do that. That's called fundamental science. But many parasites that cause diseases, they don't want actually to kill the host. But in their cycle, for let's take an example of this Plasmodium. So in order to get out from a cell, they have to burst the cell, right? RBCs. There's no other option. And when RBCs will not be there, humans will suffer a consequence. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So that's why even if they want or they do not want is not the choice, but we are affected by the parasite. So they are not silent parasites. So we cannot find a balance between us and them. So that's where someone has to bear the consequence. Now, in the next class, when I will be teaching you about ant amoeba, I will tell you a very interesting thing that ant amoeba behaves like an ideal parasite for the most of its time. And you know, when it is behaving like an ideal parasite, just sitting in our body doing nothing, we don't have any problem with that. But at one stage of its life, it becomes rogue, and it's called histolytica because the word histo means tissues and lytica means to degrade it, to kill it, lysis, to tear it down. So it starts killing the tissues in which it is living for its nutrition, starts eating. So if ant amoeba histolytica goes to liver, it starts killing the liver. If it goes to brain, it starts eating up the brain tissues. But don't you think it should not do that? Because anyway, it was living very good and fine. All of a sudden started killing the same system in which it is surviving. And once the host dies, ant amoeba will also die. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So these are very bizarre things. We are studying, we are trying to understand, but it happens. Okay, does that answer your question, Nabil?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other question do you have?